The great wealth transfer is finally here. And soon, $84 trillion are expected to be handed down to millennials and Gen X from the baby boomers. So in this video, we're going to discuss how we can position ourselves as investors to profit as much as possible from this transfer. Are you ready? Let's get right into it. Hi everyone, my name is Rick. I hope you had a wonderful day today, guys. And if you did, maybe you can also make mine better by smashing the like button down there. You know, the small thumbs up symbol down there. Yeah, exactly that. So the first question is, why is it being called the greatest wealth transfer? Back in 1989, the grand total family wealth across the entire country was about $38 trillion when adjusting for inflation. But fast forward to 2022, and the total wealth is more than triple to $140 trillion. And who owns this wealth? Roughly half of it is actually controlled by just one generation of people, the baby boomers.
You baby boomers are so demanding.
Baby boomers are born between 1946 and 1964 and have all this money because 1. They worked their butt off. 2. They lived in a very prosperous time for the economy. 3. They invested. And 4. They got some of their money from the wealth transfer from their parents, the so-called silent generation, which in fact at the moment holds only about $18 trillion worth of assets, while baby boomers have $78 trillion, their children, Gen X, hold $48 trillion, and their children, while millennials, like me, own only $14 trillion, or about 10% of all the wealth. So what happens now? Now the richest generation of baby boomers, 73 million people only in the US, are now between 60 and 80 years old. So this generation is set to pass on their wealth to their children, which one day will pass it to their children. Well, we'll probably stop there because apparently 7% of families lose their wealth already in the second generation.
Lost it all in 24 hours, right down the toilet. Excuse me.
But we're not here to spread panic and pessimism, we're here to talk facts. So here's a fact. Data shows that today, the top 10% of the wealthiest people control more than half of all the wealth. Check this out. This chart represents the wealth growth across the decades and tells you how much of it is controlled by which percentage of the population. You can see that the top 1% controls almost as much of the wealth as the top 10. But combined together, the top 10% controls over half of all the wealth in the US. So data shows that 42% or $35.8 trillion of the assets that will be distributed during the wealth transfer will come from the so-called high net worth or ultra high net worth individuals, namely people who have between $5 and $20 million at least in liquid assets like cash. And they represent just 1% of Americans. Unfortunately, as you can see, the great wealth transfer is in most part a case of the rich getting richer. And there are 4 factors that make this happen. The first one is income. The top 10% of earners, for example, were averaging about $429.5 thousand a year in 2023, while the bottom 50% was earning only $18,000 a year. Second reason is because rich people are better at legally avoiding taxes.
And they showed he didn't pay any federal income tax. So
That makes me smart.
One way is, for example, growing their money in a tax-advantaged way. It could be, for example, as simple as opening a Roth IRA that spares you the taxes on your stocks and ETFs in retirement, or by starting a business and growing tax-free as long as your expenses equal your revenue. But another effective way rich people use to make and invest money tax-free is by borrowing money against their assets. Because as Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad Poor Dad says,
If I borrow money, guess what? Do I pay taxes on debt?
I guess no.
so just like that, by borrowing against our assets, we can make our taxes disappear. And while earning high incomes or avoiding taxes are surely big factors for this wealth gap, if you look at the biggest drivers of wealth, real estate is certainly one of them. Most middle-class families in the 80s were able to buy at least one house or one apartment, even with the mother being traditionally a housewife more often than not. While if you are my age, you must have a great position for yourself and your partner too, if you want to be able to buy even a small apartment in the city. If you bought a house at the beginning of the 80s, even without finding the best deal, you would have made a lot of money. The average home price in the US grew by 500% from $86,000 in 1983 to $513,000 in 2023. And as if real estate wasn't enough, probably what made most millionaires in the last 50 years is the stock market. If your parents invested just $10,000 in the S&P 500 index in 1983 and never invested 1 cent more, they would sit now on $795,000. This is a return on investment of 7,852%. Try to beat that. Alright, so if in the coming years 45 million households are predicted to transfer $84 trillion to millennials and Gen Z, I don't know about you, but me and the average person are not going to benefit so much from some incredible inheritance. But it's not really a problem because it's not the people receiving the inheritance that should be most excited, it's those that think like an investor. That's because the huge money transfer is gonna mean that millennials and Gen Z are gonna have more money to spend, and more money means also more opportunity for smart people. Many studies, including a study by Fidelity from 2019, have shown that the notion that most millionaires are born into wealth is a myth. In fact, over 2/3 of millionaires are self-made. They also found out, and it doesn't really come as a surprise, that self-made millionaires are able to set ambitious goals, which is the biggest drive to financial success. They seek mentorship, which is the best way to learn fast. They take calculated risks, which is the best way to avoid losing money. They learn from failure, manage time effectively, and diversify their investments. The national study of millionaires by Ramsey Solutions found that 79% of millionaires did not receive any inheritance at all from their parents. But of the 21% that did receive some inheritance, only 3% received 1 million or more. Obviously, you need to learn how to manage money because, believe it or not, wealth is not about how much you earn, it's about how much you earn compared to how much you spend. It's crazy how most professional football or basketball players at some point after retirement declare bankruptcy. Think about Allen Iverson, who made $200 million during his career in the NBA. The guy spent so much money on cars and luxury that in 2010 he had to declare bankruptcy, covered by debts. But besides knowing how to manage your money, you need to increase your income. And obviously, the two fastest ways you have are gonna be either to start a business, as in a normal business or even just like a side hustle, or keeping a normal job and investing the money you earn. I'm not going into the topic of starting a business because, at least for now, it's apparently not interesting for my typical viewers. Instead, I want to focus on investing in the stock market and which fields are more likely to deliver the highest returns in the decades to come. So let's get right into it. Now, if there's going to be such a high wealth transfer from the old generations to the new ones, we gotta ask ourselves, what are the fields and sectors that are going to be disruptive and how can we profit from them? So let's start from the field that this year was probably the most innovative, disruptive, and by the way, pushed the whole American stock market to the stars. I'm talking about AI, artificial intelligence. You can invest in the AI sector either by buying ETFs or by investing in individual companies that you know are investing in artificial intelligence. The problem with AI ETFs is that they have pretty expensive management fees, are pretty volatile, and despite the trend, they didn't really deliver a better performance than the S&P 500 index, which is the index that represents 500 of the largest companies in the US and can be bought as an ETF. Examples of AI ETFs are the Global X Robotics and Artificial Intelligence ETF, ticker BOTZ, with 0.69% expense ratio and over 2 billion in assets under management, and the iShares Robotics and Artificial Intelligence ETF, ticker IRBO. Nevertheless, if you compare them to the S&P 500, you're going to see that despite the extra growth after 2020, they still delivered a lower result. But what's maybe more interesting for you is to know which famous large cap companies are actually investing in AI. The first company is Microsoft, which, as you know, invested $10 billion in OpenAI, ChatGPT, and integrated ChatGPT into its own browser Bing. And in addition to this, if you don't know what Microsoft Copilot is, well, for whoever uses Windows, Copilot will most likely be your best friend soon enough, allowing you to access all the functions of artificial intelligence on your computer thanks to the interface with the OpenAI API and in particular ChatGPT. Cool, right? Another company that will strongly profit from AI in the future is Alphabet, the parent company of Google. They're going to use AI and machine learning to improve Google searches, YouTube, and as I heard, they will also develop a function to automatically subscribe to my channel. Well, at least I hope so. But Alphabet will not only profit from AI when it comes to apps and advertising, but also when it comes to cloud computing or even new services. For example, Alphabet recently incorporated Waymo, a leading self-driving car business which relies heavily on AI. Amazon is another company investing in AI that I think really every investor should have in their portfolio. First of all, it's a wonderful business, it's focused 100% on growth and technology, and it's heavily investing in AI with, for example, Amazon Alexa, Amazon Web Services, and Amazon Recognition. So if you ask me, you should just invest in Amazon and relax like this.
I can whisper to Alexa and she'll whisper back, Alexa, set a timer to wake us up in 30 minutes.
30 minutes, starting now.
Meta is also famously investing in AI. In fact, before 2022, they invested so much in AI and the metaverse that the stock collapsed for the fear that Mark Zuckerberg was actually burning all the company's money. But they bounced back, earning 276% from the bottom in just 1 year. Another great company investing in AI is Adobe. Probably most of you are familiar with Adobe programs like Photoshop, Premiere, Illustrator, and so on. But with AI, Adobe's jumping to another level.
Innovative in a spaceship on top, got the bacon, drop the patience, check this.
Okay, that was really cool. Alright, besides AI, obviously all sectors related to technology are probably gonna lead the growth in the next few years. For example, companies in the semiconductors industry like Nvidia or AMD are obviously gonna play a huge role in technology. But also companies related to robotics, with Japan leading the field in automation with 631 robots for every 10,000 humans in the workforce in the country. And if you're young and prone to risk, cryptocurrencies can also represent a huge potential for high returns. And just a month ago, something started to happen which is gonna create a bridge between traditional investing and crypto investing, bringing an immense amount of institutional money and also private money into the crypto markets. I'm talking about big financial institutions like BlackRock finally making positive steps into getting the first Bitcoin ETFs approved by the SEC, the so-called US Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the regulator that decides the rules for the exchange of securities in the financial markets. In the past decade, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite Index have risen 166% and 270% respectively. And guys, those are solid gains, to be fair. But in the same time period, Bitcoin's value has skyrocketed 4,830%, translating in an annualized return of 74% per year. This means that with an investment of just $4,000 10 years ago, you would be a millionaire today. Now, should you invest in something so volatile as crypto? It depends on how strong your stomach is, first of all, but for sure, you shouldn't invest money that you're not ready to lose, because the crypto markets is not like the stock markets. You know, I lost a lot of money in my past with stocks and crypto, and I was able to learn from any mistake and also get my money back. But if there's one thing that I was never ever able to recover, is time. Time is the most valuable thing a man can ever spend, and that's the only asset that you can never get back when it's gone. So my best suggestion I can give you to benefit from the great wealth transfer is to spend as much time as possible with your family, your wife, and your friends. And since we're talking about baby boomers going into their 60s, 70s, and 80s right now, let's remember that baby boomers are the ones that made the society as we know it today. And let's stop criticizing them all the time for the cost of living we have. Instead, let's spend more time with them, because in today's society, we think more about money than about the people that brought us up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I would love if you could support me with a like to it, and of course, by subscribing to my channel for new finance and investing videos every week. I wish you a great day, guys, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!